What's going on, guys? Welcome along to another video over at D.S.R, and today we're taking out this beautiful machine, KTM SuperDuke 1290 GT 2022. You may have seen I have already done a first impressions of this bike, but today I'm going to be doing my full riding review of this machine. And the reason why I've done the impressions before I've done the riding review was this is brand new, this is my own personal bike. So I wanted to get past the break-in service. That is now done. We're now at 780 miles. More importantly, I did have an engine light on. So before I done a riding review on this bike, I wanted to get rid of the engine light, because that engine light was causing a few faults with the bike, so it wasn't running as perfectly as it should. But that's all fixed now. Here we are, beautiful day. Let's get into it. Now, without going into the performance models or the Evo lines of the 1290 SuperDuke, this is currently KTM's flagship bike. This engine is actually shared across 3 different platforms. We've got the fully naked version of the SuperDuke R, the faired touring version of the SuperDuke GT, and then finally the adventure style for the Super Adventure S. Being the flagship bike of the KTM 1290 range, this does have a pretty penny price tag to it, coming in at £17,949. One thing KTM do like to do is they'll give plenty of extras that are available for all their bikes, but they'll make you pay for it. Luckily, this bike does have a lot of bells and whistles, but as always, it didn't have some of the options that I personally wanted. I then paid extra to add on the tech pack, but we'll come on to that later on in the video. All the technology and all the kit and equipment that's involved in this bike will be covered, don't you worry. But one thing in this video I'm not going to do is going to go through everything, all the technology and all how it works and all the settings you can change. That will be done in a video later on, where it'll be me, the bike in the garage. I'm going to take you through everything, show you how to change the settings and how to tune it in, so you can maximise the most out of this bike for your riding style. We're going to start at the front of the bike, and then we're going to work our way back, talking all the pertinent points as we come through it. First thing you are going to notice, the brakes. We do have Brembo brakes all around. They are sharp, and they definitely will get the job done. 320mm twin at the front, 240 at the back. I have noticed though, since owning the bike, the rear brake does seem to squeak a lot. Bearing in mind I'm at almost 800 miles now, the pads and the discs aren't bedding in still. They've gone past that stage now. So I need to look at that, see why they're squeaking, and see if I can change anything. I really like the look of this bike at the front. It's got that SuperDuke R front with the old headlights, the old slash point to it. But then it's got the extra fairing above it, because it is the GT line, it is that touring line. So we have got this nice screen at the front. KTM say there are 9 different positions for this screen for the rider to adjust. Me personally, I either have it all the way up or all the way down. I can't be bothered faffing, trying to find out which notch to get it into that I like. So at the minute, it's all the way down, and all you're going to do to adjust it, one-handed, push it forward, pull it up, release it, and that is it. Obviously, if you want to go in between, like I said, that does have 9 different points, you can. But I don't bother. Stick it up when I want some extra protection. When I want it down, push, slide, done. I really like it when manufacturers think about how they're going to do the adjustable screen. There are some bikes out there that need 2 hands, and it's not a thing to be done whilst riding. So any bike that you can adjust the screen one-handed gets my vote. This bike does come with cornering lights, it's really nice to see. So on the front, either side of the headlight, on the fairing segment, there are 3 separate lights, and then what happens as you're starting to bank in, the first light will come on. As the angle of the bike gets steeper, the second one, and then finally the third light will come on when the bike registers you're at a certain degree of angle. The MT10, one of my personal gripes, nighttime riding, the lights had a very flat beam to it, so as soon as you start going around the left corner it would go dark and you couldn't see. So adding in cornering lights is really going to help that. Helping to keep this ride plush is the electronic semi-active suspension. Hear that rear brake squeaking away. Helping this bike's ride to stay plush is that electronic semi-active suspension. That, adding on to the electronic package that you get on this bike, is fantastic. So working its magic with this semi-active suspension, you can adjust the damping with 3 different modes. You've got sport, you've got street, and then you've got comfort. Those are the 3 that you can change on the fly whilst you're riding. And then when you're stationary, you've then got an added load adjustability where you can tell the bike whether you've got just you, the rider, whether you want to have rider plus luggage, where you're going to have 2 riders, or you can have 2 riders plus luggage. So you've got the 3 damping settings you can change, and you then got the load setting which you can change between 4 different settings as well. So like I said, really good suspension package on this bike. If you do want to change the damping, i.e. between the sport, street or comfort, all you're going to do is going to push right on the D-pad, brings up the bike info, push down a couple of times, get into suspension, go into that, and there you go. We've got comfort, sport or street. As you may be able to see, the load setting is not highlighted because, like I said, you do need to be stationary when you're going to change that. Obviously it does have a standard slipper clutch, which you would expect normally, where you bang it down the gears and then it controls the rear wheel to make sure it doesn't spin out of control or lock up. But what it also does on the other end of the spectrum, when you're at a standstill, it adjusts the pull on the clutch. So actually you've got a really nice light clutch pull. And even on the KTM website, it is stated to be able to do it with 1 trigger finger. One of the next obvious things you do notice when jumping on this bike is this new for the GT 7-inch TFT screen. And this has been taken off the Super Adventure, so if you have come from the Super Adventure, you're going to feel right at home when looking at this. This thing is big. It's the size of most people's tablets, and it's got a lot of information on there. Underneath the screen at the back there, you do have a standard 12-volt socket. So I've got a twin USB head in there at the minute, and that is charging my quad lock phone wireless straight onto handlebar. Nice, sleek, no wires hanging out. One thing you do notice with this bike, as standard, the seat height is 835 millimeters. Normally that's fine. I've now added the comfort seat and I can't get both feet flat on the floor. Not far away, but it is something to take note of. When I did put the comfort seat on, I did notice it straight away that is a little bit taller. So if you are on the shorter side, take note. Watch out if you are trying to buy the comfort seat. Well, stuck in traffic, let's talk about the handlebars then. There's quite a lot going on here. So on the right hand side, you've got C1 and C2 button, alright, and that's like a quick menu. So you can go into the settings and then decide what setting you're going to go to when you push C1, and then what setting you want to go to when you press C2. So you might have it for your suspension and then your traction control for C1 and C2, wherever you decide. Above that, hazards, because this is a keyless entry system. That button there is going to turn the bike on, but it's also going to be your handlebar lock button, and I'll show you how to do that later on. Underneath there, we have got your standard kill start switch. Moving over to the left hand side, we've got your standard, you've got your passing light, and then you've got your full beam. Underneath that, we've got our back button when we're on the menu setting. To the top right, we've got our cruise control button to turn it on, to activate it. We've then got our jog dials up, down, left, right, and then enter. Below that, we've then got our indicators, our horn, and then there's a flappy paddle as well. So there's a plus this side and then a minus on the back side. Whilst you're riding along, got nothing else, no other settings up on the screen. On the top left hand side, it does say slip, and then all you're going to do is those flappy panels will adjust how much slip you can get from the rear wheel. When you have got the cruise control activated, the plus or minus will increase or decrease your speed accordingly as you're going along the road. A big feature for this bike when you are sat on it is this tank. 23 litres this thing holds, and you'll be getting 200 plus miles per tank depending on how you're riding, where you're riding, if you're two up, if you've got a luggage, usual stuff that affects the miles per gallon of any bike. Do you have the throttle response in race, or do you have it in rain? How's the performance mode? What rider mode do you have it in? Do you have it in performance, or do you have it in rain mode? Things like that. I've already mentioned the seat height of this bike, but one thing to note, the comfort seat is also the heated seat. So yeah, that's right, this does have a heated seat capabilities for the rider and the pillion if you want to buy the pillion seat. I haven't. No one's really going to go on the back, especially when they're going to need a heated seat. So I thought I'd splash the money, got myself the heated seat. But one thing I can tell you, definitely do not need a heated seat at the minute. This engine does kick out some heat onto your thighs. But hey, I'm sure in the winter I'll be smashing that heated seat on. Talking of heating capabilities, the bike as standard comes with heated grips. Another thing really nice to see, but let's face it, at this price tag they can afford to put it on. But same again, you go into the settings on the screen and then you go to the heated grips, and then there'll be low, medium, high or off, and then same again for the seat. If you do buy the seat separate, potentially you're going to have to go into KTM and then get them to activate the seat within the settings. So just one thing to be mindful of if you do go and buy it. As I've no doubt you can hear, this thing does have quick shifter. So far pretty smooth. So far I have had one or two missed gears, but that was probably user error, so I can accept that. But when you are getting on it, it does click through really nicely. Now this engine, being the V-twin 1300cc engine this bike has got in it does kick out a certain amount of vibes. KTM have done some work on this engine and the frame for the Gen 2. People are calling this the 2.5 because it's not quite a complete overhaul to become a Gen 3, but it does have enough of an upgrade to be a 2.5. I can say one thing with the vibes is after its first service it has gone down. I'd probably say about 20% of the vibes through the engine. It just all feels a little bit tighter, a little bit smoother. There are still vibes there, yeah, of course, but not as vibey as before the service. One thing on these back roads, where the roads are a little bit more bumpy, you can definitely tell the suspension working. Really nice and smooth. Let's dive into some of the electronics that you do get with this bike. Actually, including of everything we've already talked about, you are going to get turn-by-turn plus navigation, and all you need to do is download KTM's app, connect the bike to the app, and then from there you're going to get a little box that will come up on the screen. The layout of the screen will slightly change, and then you are going to get little arrows going left and right, or left and right 200 meters, or at the next roundabout take the third exit. So it is basic. It's not like having a Google Maps in front of you. I do know some bikes do have that capability. As standard, this bike you are going to get 3 rider modes, and they're going to be street, sport and then rain. Within those 3 there's not going to be a whole lot of settings you can adjust. All it's going to give you is the capabilities of changing the ABS mode. So normal ABS mode is you have ABS on the front and rear wheel, or you can place it into supermoto mode, which will mean it will keep ABS on the front but delete ABS off the rear. And then the only other setting is the MTC, so the motorcycle traction control, and the MSR, so the slip. So you're going to control whether you want to have traction control and slip control on or off. And that's it for sport, street and rain. Now I say it like that because, like I mentioned earlier, I have added the tech pack onto this bike, and it does add a few little niceties that I personally would want on the bike, hence why I added it on. So you've got those 3 rider modes. The tech pack adds a further 2. The main one being performance. The second one after that will be track. The adjustability that you can do between the performance and track are exactly the same. It's just so you don't have to do any big changes when coming from the road or if you're going on the track. I'd love to take this bike on track, but the insurance for this is a premium. So looking into the performance, same again, you can change the ABS mode and then the MTC and the MSR, so traction control slip, just as the others. But this is where it starts getting interesting. You have got throttle response, and with inside throttle response, you've then got street, sport or track. So how aggressive you want that throttle. Next option down, anti-wheelie, and this is probably why I got this bike and having the tech back on it. Anti-wheelie mode, you can either have it on or off. I appreciate other bikes you can determine how much control of anti-wheelie there is, but unfortunately you don't get a level of control, you just get on or off, which absolutely perfect for me, because on the Aprilia you did have different levels of anti-wheelie control, but I still found it was too intrusive, so I just used to turn it off anyway. Underneath that we've then got launch control, and then you can turn that on or off. So those are the extras that you do get. So those are the extras you get with the tech pack within the performance rider mode. You do get TPMS, which is the tyre pressure monitoring system, as standard, and as you can see on the screen, it says my front is 2.9 bar and then the rear is 3.2. So when it does notice a drop in the tyre pressure, it will send up a little onto the screen to let you know you got low pressure or high pressure, which can be the case if you've overfilled it. This bike also comes with hill hold control, so a nice little added feature. So if you are on a steep incline, obviously the bike has got lots of sensors that can work out how steep it is. If you've met the requirement for the steepness of the bike settings, make sure you apply the brake. When you release the brake, the bike will hold the brakes on slightly until you start pulling away. Exactly the same as you find in a car. But it's nice to see on a bike that is also orientated for 2s up touring style, having that extra control on hills. Really nice to see. Another bit of technology this bike does have is self-cancelling indicators, and the way they work, turn them on when you get to a junction, you then pull away, come round the corner, so after 10 seconds of riding and after 150 meters of travel, they'll then turn off. One thing you do tend to find is you look down after you come around the corner, like, oh, they're still on, and as you then go to turn them off, the bike's then turn it off, you've then hit the button, and then actually all you've done is reactivated the indicator. Another thing I really like with this bike, same as the Africa Twin, is they both have the luggage capability inbuilt into the subframe and the fairing of the bike. So unlike the MT10, where I had to add on a rack for it, and then the rack would then stay on when the bags weren't on, this bike has got the storage ready, inbuilt, good to go, and then the bags just slide on and then lock into place. The bike is keyless entry, but in that key, that's where you'll then find the key for your luggage. Apart from that though, you won't need to take the key out of your pocket. Including the gas cap, that is also keyless entry. Nice to see. It's just a pain when you've got a keyless bike to then get your key out to do the gas cap. I like having some form of quick release, because if someone wants to siphon my fuel, you crack on, mate. You're going to get 15-20 litres, unless it's this bike, and then you're going to get 23. But I've personally never had it where anyone has siphoned my fuel whilst having a quick release cap. For 2022, KTM have updated the wheels on this bike, giving it a 5-spoke wheel, which they've also managed to drop a kilo from. When bikes nowadays are coming in at 240, some of them plus, my Harley's 305 kilos. Every kilo you can save is appreciative to how the bike handles. A couple of extra bits a KTM have added onto the bike to make it more adjustable to every rider. The handlebars, there are 22mm of adjustability within them, and then also there's 4 different positions that they can be situated in. Moving on to the pegs, there are 3 different positions you can change the levers to. So depending on what style boots you're riding, you can adjust it to suit your riding style or your riding gear. Which is it? You decide. Frustratingly, at the beginning of this video I did mention how I was waiting till the engine light had been fixed under the warranty. Sod's law, 75 miles later, after it had been fixed, engine light is back on. So annoyingly, twice now within 830 miles has this engine light come on. With this engine light back on, I am going to ring up KTM and then get it back into the workshop. We'll see what happens from there. I don't like to leave a video on a downer, but hey, it is what it is. So on that one, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up, like this video, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel, and you can see more broken KTM videos just like this. In the meantime, ride safe.